Beginning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. As it has always been an interesting one, today's workshop will also be very, very interesting and impactful. I welcome our facilitator, Mrs. Asha from Mirai Partners, COPSEL members, school administrators and leaders, educators and lovers of the education sector. Today's theme is hybrid teaching and learning. We're going to learn different things which we know and we need to unlearn to relearn, because definitely things grow by the day. And so at this point, before I come in again, I'd like to leave the floor for Mrs. Asher from Mirai Partners to take over this juncture. Mrs. Asher, you're welcome to today's workshop. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Good morning. Before you go on slightly, Ms. Asha, we would like to acknowledge the presence of DG, Office of Education Quality Assurance, Ms. Abiola Seriki. Good morning, DG, ma. Welcome to today's
Good morning, everyone.
Okay,
Good morning, everyone. So before Miss Asha comes in, I know that we have introduced her. We're welcome, ma'am. We're very privileged to have you here today. My co-facilitator for today is Mrs. Asha Sanjay, Head of Digital Solutions at Mirai and a leading member of the digital transformation team until 2019 at GEMS Education, the world's largest private school network, which is resident in the UAE. You're welcome, ma'am. I'm really excited about today's session. I know that all of the participants today will learn a lot. I want us all to remember that this is being live streamed on YouTube. So no worries for those who are unable to register via Zoom. And it will be available on the OEQA Lagos tab at YouTube also. I just want to briefly remind us about the ways of working. We are to remember that remember that we should be present and that we should avoid distractions as much as we can. I know that many of us are not seated at a desk the way I am, right? Some of us are in the car, some of us are on site. So let's just try our best to be present. Again, this is going to be available later on. So if you believe that you would get more out of it and you'll be able to focus later on, then that's perfectly fine. Remember to participate. Use the chat box for questions and constructive comments. We are going to try our best to make sure that this session is interactive and do the activities. I can't stress that. Right? Whatever we are able to give in, that is what we're going to get out of it. Let's be honest, right? The type of expectations that we have for our students, our teachers, we need to be at the frontier of really digging in and getting our hands dirty. I want to spend a little bit of time on doing the activities. Are you going to get the activities totally correct? Probably the first time? No. Are you going to be able to understand how you're able to scaffold this training to other people better? Absolutely. So it's very important that we interact with the content, because by the time you are also learning and wanting to scaffold the training to your stakeholders, you have a better idea as to how you can tailor this training to the needs of your participants. So we'll just give a brief workshop overview. So we know that with COVID came a new frontier. and quality assurance, right? To say the very least, online and hybrid teaching and learning. So we know that online is totally online, and hybrid is having a mix of online and in-person learning. On one hand, the learning that we have teaching online was more feasible than anyone had thought. On the other hand, we were confronted with questions about assessment, student engagement, hands-on learning, and much more, which is why we have tried to be very tailored in our approach to ensure that even as we do this online workshop, we've embedded best practices that you can also use when you are giving such workshops or any other workshops, right? Whatever we use here, we model here, you can use it for any other type of online workshop or hybrid learning that you want to give out. This workshop addresses the best practices in digitally supportive face-to-face, online, and hybrid learning. Understanding the best practices will help you all to support the schools the way we want you to work as they incorporate more diverse modes of teaching. I want to just leave off by just saying that this is not the end all beyond. This is just beginning this conversation and bringing together what global best practices we have been able to learn along the way. This is by no means is it a comprehensive list of what you should be doing, but it is a start. So without further much ado, I know that this is going to be a very packed session, and I know that there was some pre-work. There was some pre-work. Pre-work refers to the work that occurs outside of the classroom, outside of the workshop before coming together so that your limited time together is maximized, okay? And that is also a best practice that you can all use, not just for your teachers, but also for students as well. So we are modeling the use of pre-work, and we are prepared in case some people are not able to do the pre-work. So Ms. Asha, over to you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Aviola. Thank you. Lovely to be, and such an honor to be at the same platform with you. Huge admirer of the work you do, and I've seen it in action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And just to take off from where Mrs. Aviola, introduced you to the fact that, okay, we are still in the pandemic, right? It's not gone away. A relative of mine, I heard, is still, just newly got married last month, is still in hospital. So it's very, very real. In some states, it's improved, in some it has not. In one sense that we have to be ready with at any point in time. Yes, some of us have gone back to face-to-face, but at all times now teachers are being prepared to any time to go back to online or to have a hybrid, a model where some are there and some are working from home. So we are prepared now, we're more prepared. Before the pandemic, I was part of, as Ms. Aviola said, part of this team, which I was the engagement lead for school digital transformation. And we had 50 schools in this region of different curriculums. I remember going every day to schools, sitting with the leadership team and their digital team, and trying our best to motivate them, looking at different ways to motivate teachers to get to use technology, which they already have. Yes, all of them embraced some form of technology, especially homework and things like that, but there was so much more they could have done with it. Some schools went ahead and started embracing. Some schools said, oh, we'll do it over time, there's no urgency. And, but they had everything there. The tools were all there. And then what happened? The pandemic happened. And suddenly it was, overnight, everybody had to use everything which was in front of them for the last few years, right? So it's so the lessons. So as it says here, suddenly teachers realized that it wasn't so difficult. It's more feasible than one thought. But then, so when I moved out and then I was working with Christine on the innovation projects with schools, then they started asking the next thing is, oh my God, the assessments which was working in face-to-face is not working anymore. now in the online? How do we innovate now? How do we, student engagement, initially everybody was very euphoric. We cracked it. The online, everybody is there. Suddenly, in fact, you wouldn't believe, I went to my hometown in India, and one of the top schools there, a teacher, was a friend of mine, said the entire grade 9 has boycotted online education.
Wow.
And in India, we never boycott because we're all board exam crazy, right? And very competitive. And imagine, they had so much fatigue, the children, that they boycotted. They said, we do not want to learn this way. We will only come back if you're calling us back to school. So for me, all those was, it really went back to the drawing board and saying that, we need to spend more time. We have to learn from our mistakes. So that's what we're going to do together today, is to harvest all our learnings and share all our what worked well, what didn't work well. So let's move on to the agenda. So we have, we are looking at the objectives for today. Did I share the objectives? Yes, these are the objectives for today. We'll review and evaluate supportive tools and approaches which has kind of worked well. There was and what does the research say now, right? And then we'll also look at some case studies. You have been sent some links. I hope some of you have gone through that as well. And let's talk about, let's share ideas. If you don't share, there is no real, our learning can actually increase the more you share, right? So I'm going to request Fauzia ma'am to start with a quick poll. Should I stop share, Ms. Fauzia, for the polls, or will it come on chat? So let's start with a quick poll. Yeah.
One moment. Okay.
Sure.
Fauzia? There may just be an overlap with the a delay in the tech. Let me just see if we can get that sorted, and you can continue, ma'am.
Okay. So let me tell you what the poll is going to ask. So, was my online learning at my school or my child's school, was it even better than in-person learning? Was it about the same as in-person learning? Was it better than expected, but not as good as in-person learning? Fourth one, not so great. Fifth one, what online learning? We never experienced it, right? So would you like to have your views on that? The polls will open out soon. Ms. Fauzia, would you be sharing? Okay, so let's try to do this way, okay, before the polls open up. So say one, if you think your online learning at your school or your child's school, in the chat, I hope all of you can access your chat function. If it was even better than in-person learning, that's one. Or two.
I'm sorry, ma'am. It seems that Fauzia. Hello, Asha. Okay, there she is.
Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
We can hear you, please. Please, can you get started with the poll? Okay, I think she may be experiencing some technical difficulty, Ms. Asha. So we may have to, unfortunately, quite unfortunate, it would have really been nice to do the poll, but since Ms. Fauzi is unable to move forward with that, let's move forward with Plan B. Maybe the chat box.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Fauzi, you're telling me the poll is created. Do you want me to stop share? Okay. I can't see the. All right, let's move on to. Okay, now I would like all of you to look at this poster and take your time over it. Just take a good look. I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let you read what's in the image here. What do you want your kids to do with technology? The old answers and the new answers. Okay, so I've given you a little time to read it. Now I want all of you to keep your fingers ready on the chat function. And so this is really important, is what you think about it, but I want you to share your feedback in a specific way. We're going to be using Project Zero, Harvard Project Zero's thinking routines, or what we also call the dialogue toolkit, to respond to this. Why? Because especially in an online context, I can't see you, I don't get a feeling. It's so important that the response you give is very, very specific, right? So I want you to look at it and respond, either use the connect function. What do you connect? How do you connect with what you read in this chart, right? You can use the word see and then say, I connect with this because this is what I feel, blah, blah. Yeah. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Or you could use the second one, which is extend. Okay, is there anything which this poster makes me think beyond just connection, make me, there's a thought which came up, I'd like to express it. So use the extend function and tell us what specifically are you thinking about. Or if you want to challenge this, or if you think there are some challenges in this, right? Or you have some questions, put that down as the third kind of response. So let us hear your thoughts.
And thank you so much, Ms. Asha, for this warm-up. I think, just like I had said earlier on, it's really great to think through those things that we participants can use immediately after the workshop, right? So this is not just a workshop where we're just telling you something in theory. This is something that you can actually, cut and paste and use for another purpose. So now we have a warm-up, and it's just not one form of warm-up, but it's a warm-up that has a menu of 3 options. That way, different people, in fact, that way almost everyone should be able to participate in this warm-up, because there's not just one point of entry. You can talk about how the image connects. You can talk about how you want to extend it or broaden the thinking. And you can also think about the questions or challenges. So I really like this particular warm-up, because it really helps the participants to meet at wherever they are, number one. And number two, it is something that we can all use tangibly today, either with our students, with our teachers, or with our schools. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms.
And do we have a time frame for this?
Yeah, we have. Let's take 2 minutes to respond. And it's so important, the reason why we're doing this, why the thinking routine and the dialogue toolkit is so important, is that typically, even teachers, when we run teaching workshops, when you ask a question or when you share something, they respond, I agree with it. But what do you agree? What is it about that you agree.
Absolutely.
Or if one school is presenting to another school, they say, very good presentation. But what about that? So you're not giving that person any feedback, right? By saying it was a very good presentation. So you're by feeding back, you are making the other person think more, right? You're encouraging others to have new perspectives. So that's why we'd love to have you share in chat. How do you connect with this image? Or is there any other new thought so that you're extending beyond it? Or is there something you're puzzled about? Or what challenges what comes up in your mind from the idea presented here? Come, let me see your responses. Don't be shy.
I'm looking at the chat box and it seems, I think we're over the good morning by now. Please, let's dive into the warm-up, okay? No more good mornings. Good morning. We love you all. Let's dive into the activities, just like we have said, for our ways of learning today. It is crucial that we are getting involved at every step, okay? This workshop would only be as useful and as great as you are willing to participate and to have it reach. Yes, there's a minimal number of, there's a minimal value that's attributed to the creation of such a workshop, but you can make it go further if you are really engaging, okay? So I'm still looking at the chat box and everyone is saying good morning, and that's not enough.
Good morning, Sandra. So love to have your thoughts. I hope you're able to see this fantastic image. It's so thought-provoking.
Okay,
right, to make
so we're rounding up. We have about 40 seconds left. Let's round up. Someone said, thank goodness. Miss Angelina Nyaku said to make a difference. Okay, to make a difference. I'm wondering, is that a challenge, an extension, or a connection?
Angelina, okay, you want to unmute and talk as well? It would be fantastic. What made you pick up to make a difference? Do you connect with it? To explore better ways of doing things. Yes. Okay.
That's the absolutely. Adejari, to explore better ways of doing things. Okay. I'm thinking that's probably new ideas. Okay.
Oh, you got a lovely answer.
Yes, Adedamola Balami. Quite connect. Thank you for using the language we've given you. Yes, a round of applause. Yes. Because it is opening our minds to what our objectives for teaching ICT related subjects should be. Okay. Oyin Consola Ogun says to drive change. I think many people are on the connection and extension or new ideas.
Which is fine, which is great. Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So ICT as a subject is not an end, but it's a means to an end. Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful. So as Ms. Abdullah said, this is a beautiful toolkit, and especially in an online context, is that you want to hear what are they connecting, how are they connecting, and to be more specific. I'm going to use the word again and again, to be more specific in the responses. You can get students to talk to each other this way, not just, hey, I like it, or press the like button, but just go beyond that and engage. So you also see how the children are thinking in the way they are connecting, just as you did. Wonderful. Thank you. So let's look at overview of hybrid learning. So I'm going to pass this on to Ms. Abiola, DG ma'am. So would you like to introduce the 4 modes of learning in a hybrid setting? You're on, yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, so there are 4 modes of learning in a hybrid setting. And like we mentioned earlier on, hybrid is basically combining 2 seemingly independent modes of learning and bringing them together. Okay, it may seem intimidating at first for all of us, but there's a way. Okay, there's a way. So the different four modes of learning in hybrid setting is focusing on maybe a live small group. I know, for instance, my children do that in their own school, where they have sort of breakout sessions after the general class has come in. Then maybe a teacher wants to work on a specific skill with a set number of students that have shown the need for it. So you can do a live small group, and you can use this live small group in any way that makes sense for your classroom, or that's in the case of learners, or in the case of evaluators and or school leaders, it could be your teachers or your schools, okay? So if you have a small group, for instance, let's say for whole school evaluation as an evaluator, and these 3 or 4 schools, right, have an issue with child safeguarding and protection, okay, based on the data that we have. Then we bring those together, and then we teach based on that. So that's where the small group comes in. Small group is not just about the number. It's not just about like, okay, I have 2 or 3 or 4 or 50, but small group is taking a portion of the larger group and taking them and bringing them together for an established or set reason. Again, the teacher, school leader, or evaluator is in the best place to figure out where that would make the most sense. Then, number 2, live whole class, exactly what it sounds like when it comes to learners, teaching the entire class of 25 or 50 or whoever online at the same time. Everyone is getting access to the learning at the same time. Then number 3, you know, ma'am, I always have an issue with this word, and you wouldn't believe it because I'm an English teacher, but I will try my best. Asynchronous.
Yeah.
Do we have it?
Asynchronous.
For some reason, I'm always scared to say it. I always skip over the word as if I can't just look it up online. But it's not the language that we always use here. You know, I know probably in the UAE it's you know, asynchronous and synchronous learning, right?
Yeah.
So asynchronous is not together, right?
Yeah.
So
not live.
together.
It's not live.
It's not live, okay? Collaborative work. So where you would have project work, group work, you've given them assignment and they're going offline and they're working on this. Yeah. This can be an extension of even the online learning. That's why it's hybrid, right? So you have a hybrid learning and you've given everyone a project and they have to sort of do some assignments away from you on their own, somewhat independently. It could be for the individual, where individually they're doing the work alone, or it could be that they're doing it in micro groups individually as individual groups also. Then the last is self-guided learning and application. I'm sure many are accustomed to this. So just like we're going to have these YouTube courses, workshops online, you can go back and you can do it at your own pace. Again, that could happen in schools, depending on the age, depending on what the objective is. You can use that in school where some parts of it will be self-guided. I find that especially when it comes to learners that are maybe gifted, right? Maybe they have a separate part of their assignments is self-guided learning because you want them to, you know, sort of extend outside of the classroom, some assignments. So they are working on that on their own and applying the objectives of that work on their own. When it comes to schools or school leaders or evaluators, it's also giving schools, in the case of evaluators, giving them something to work on their own, okay? Giving them, so they're doing it on their own, and maybe there's a general timeline, okay? So it may not be in the next 2 weeks, maybe it is within 6 months, maybe it's within a year, but it's generally the most flexible of all 4.
Yeah,
okay.
Lovely. Thank you so much. In fact, just to culminate what you were saying, but to share this amazing person, Michael Fullen's quote. Now, Michael Fullen is a director of leadership of new pedagogies for deeper learning. right, for deep learning. And this quote is especially so significant. So I would like a thumbs up if you resonate with it. A hybrid approach to learning intentionally, right, intentionally creates a learner-centered experience. So you have that tremendous opportunity. So he saw in this whole thing, he saw a golden opportunity. He said, this model actually intentionally creates a learner-centered experience that is profoundly personalized, relevant, and engaging. So he sees a great opportunity amidst all the doom and gloom in this context. So I'd like you to keep that, make a note of this quote, because there's some very, very key words here which one can take out and talk a little more about how to achieve this, right?
Yes, I also wanted to, in addition to the direction for the participants to give a thumbs up, I would actually be interested into the word within this statement that strikes you the most, word or phrase that strikes you the most, and why. Okay, word or part of phrase, so part of this quotation that strikes you the most and why. So, Miss Asha, I keep going to you as a timekeeper.
Yeah. We can give it another minute.
Okay, there's several thumbs up that I'm noticing here.
Oh, lovely. Fantastic.
Someone said intentionally personalized and engaging.
I love it. Beautiful. I love the word intentionally personalized and engaging. Yes. Any more? What word would you pick from this?
For me, I would say learner-centered experience. Experience. Yep. I would have not thought of an experience.
Relevant. Very loaded words. He's chosen very carefully each of these words. So we have a question, can we launch the second poll? We'll do that after the next slide, which is on the 5 principles.
Okay, would we still be able to launch the first poll, or should we just sort of leave that aside?
We can come back to it maybe at the end.
Okay,
it is
okay,
a common,
just so Ms. Fauzia is aware.
Yeah.
Okay, so after this next slide, Ms. Fauzia, if you can just please help us to prepare the second poll. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your responses. Personalized because it's flexible, absolutely. Learner-centered experience, yes. And engaging that all participants, and you wouldn't believe the number of schools which actually took engagement as their line of inquiry for improvement, right? They just grappling with that. We don't have a body language, we don't have body language, we're just having this new scenario for connecting and engaging. Thank you so much for your responses. Very insightful. Now I'll move into the next slide, and after that, Ms. Fauzia, if you could launch the poll around it, which is the poll 3, right? So the 5 principles of hybrid learning. I'm going to set the context before we get into the poll, because let me set the context. The 5 principles of hybrid learning, right, is education systems moving to a hybrid learning environment need to focus on specific elements to ensure. Now we're talking that intentionality, which Mr. Fullen taught. Okay, we're just breaking it down a little more. To ensure the students and instructors have what they need to be successful. So let's look at the 5. 1 is learning environment. So in the learning environment, I've just put down a few questions which you should have asked yourself if that was one of the areas, elements you're looking at. So the kind of questions you will be asking, or you would have asked, is how will students ask questions to me, and how will they get my attention? So have you asked that question? Second, have you asked the questions like, how will I as a teacher take attendance and gauge gauge my participants' engagement? How will I gauge participation during a synchronous call, that is a live call? Or Have you asked this question? During collaborative work, how will I break students into groups and get their attention? And how will they be able to get back to check in on me if they have any questions? Have I thought through the whole scenario? Or how will I make the workflow in this new hybrid set? How will I make it seamless? That how do everybody know where we're sharing? Do they know how we're distributing? Is there a seamless way of collecting assignments, feedback, evaluating? Is there a channel for this, for discussion, sharing of work, and even socializing? So those are all contribute to the learning environment. And I've just posed a few questions, and I'm sure I missed a few more which you have in your mind. Okay, so that's the first learning environment. Let's look at class community. What do we mean by class community? What are the questions you could have asked or you should have asked? How do I foster relationships? Okay, relationship between student to student, between me and the student, right? Or the new kids who are coming in and the rest of them. How did I foster it? How do I foster it? How do I encourage connection and camaraderie in that sense? How have I made it more welcoming? How to make my space more welcoming? What have I done to make it more welcoming than just a typical, like a Zoom call, right? And another question, how would I make my learning more authentic? I'm not there, no touch and feel. How do I make it more authentic and safe? And how do they feel connected to me? Is my personality coming out? Do I look like just something from straight off a machine, or are they feeling me as a real person? So these are the kind of questions around class community. Lesson design. So a lot of educators have, when it came to lesson design, the mantra was less is more, right? Simplification became the norm. They realized they can't do as much in the hybrid and the online context. So what they did was, one of the most popular ones was, backward design principles, which means you start with, what do you want students to know by the end of the lesson? And then you go backwards to, so what will they need to along the way? And then you go backwards to, then this would be the relevant. I liked one of you mentioned the word relevant. This would be the relevant content for that. This will be the relevant readings for that. And this will be the relevant activities and assignments. This whole thing is called the backward design principles. A quick note on the engagement and interactivity would be that, the research, there was a research done and by Mr. Fullen, if I remember right. And he said that the people who were most, the students who got most out of this whole online hybrid were the students who were allowed voice, choice, and agency, right? Which they were allowed to demonstrate the understanding by using a variety of methodologies and tools. I'm going to pause there. So I've kind of picked elements. These are the 5 principles. So I'm going to, is it possible to run a poll? Or if not, we can have it on chat, right? Actually, we just have it simple on chat, right? You can use the word for
going back to the less is more, right, Miss Asha?
I know. So we can use a very simple code here, right? I'm going to ask you, which hybrid learning principle is the most challenging to put in place in your context?
Okay, Miss Asha, have we gone through all 5? So that
we've gone through all 5.
We've gone through all 5. Okay, I wanted to add for like learning environment. If you think about what an environment we normally think of as a physical space, but if the physical space is more hybrid, what can an online learning environment look like, right? We know that oftentimes when we look at a classroom of an effective teacher, we see, for example, examples of student work. What could that look like? Could it be that you're showcasing some students' work, right? Maybe from the previous lesson that's highlighted. Okay, so what is that learning environment? People come in because they're in their homes, right? They're in their homes and they need to come in and know that, wow, I'm in a learning environment. So what transition have you planned for that could happen within this virtual part of your hybrid environment? Another thing I wanted to talk about very quickly before the poll is class community. I love that you talked about, a spirit of camaraderie.
Yeah.
How do students feel that they're part of this particular community? Class 4 red. How do they feel a sense of pride of being in 4 red? Is it maybe like maybe emojis, maybe the beginning of the class? Maybe people have to talk about what fruit do you feel like you are this morning? Some people put banana, apple, classroom community. How do people feel like they're part of this virtual community that, oh no, I have to get to the way some students love to be in their class. I can't miss art class today. I can't miss, even if they're not feeling well, I can't miss this class. How do you move toward that in a hybrid or online classroom where it's like, no, I cannot miss this online course going on because we do something fun? And with classroom community, it's also a spirit of rapport, it's a spirit of respect. So where do people feel, for instance, in terms of, do you call on people who are not following the rules? So if you've said that they need to raise their hand, are you doing that? Are you saying that people cannot just call out? Because we want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and that spirit of respect and rapport is there. Okay, so how can you embed that? Then lesson design, I think you've talked about that. Engagement, interactivity, and then assessment and feedback. I know there's been a running thread talking in the previous workshops, really talking about like something as simple as an exit ticket, informal feedback. How can you embed informal feedback? On a scale of 1 to 5, put 1 finger up if you really understood yesterday's lesson, if you did not understand yesterday's lesson at all, and 5 if you understand it so well you can teach it to someone. Very, very quick. So then we can move on now.
So shall I ask them to poll? I'll use the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was Miss Fauza able to open the poll? No? Okay.
Which is fine. This is a
Oh, she's
chat.
got it. She's got it. Thank you, Miss Fauzia. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, is this the okay? Is this the first poll or the second? Digitization.
Where is the poll? I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
This must be the second. Since returning to school, we
are
right.
I can see the not this one.
This not this one. Okay, yeah. The second one.
Now the poll here is, which hybrid learning principle are most challenging to put in place? Since we talked about the
Miss Asha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you said which of the 5 principles are most
challenging?
Okay.
So they can enter in the chat if it's learning environment, okay, or if was it class community, was it lesson design, was it engagement and interactivity, or was it assessment and feedback, right? So would love to hear which one was the most challenging in your context. As you're typing, I'm going to give you a story about a school here in this region, which we were working very closely with. They found that, and they were doing everything right, but they found the assessment was not working. They just couldn't understand whether the students were learning or not. Nothing was working. So they actually came up with a new model of student designed assessment, and they worked on it over months. And then, the students designed the assessment for the other students. So which was a huge, they made it.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's amazing. They made it, they worked on that prototype over a year, and now they've launched it as one of the, it's going to stay in the school, and they've scaled it. So it's fantastic. Yeah, so for them, that was the most challenging. Somebody said lesson design, absolutely. So I'm going to take that, the other teacher who talked about being relevant and being simplifying, less is more, in this particular context. So someone said a learning environment, absolutely. It's not easy to replicate all the hard work you've put in, in your classrooms. So somebody said lesson design and assessment, engagement and interactivity. You have a lot of people who are with you on that. That's a challenge, engagement and interactivity. I've seen, we've been observing classes online in different schools, and you see the teacher calling out, why aren't you on? Put your video on. You know, it was so demoralizing and stressful. Keep them coming in. Let's see which seems to be the most popular challenge, most challenging. I can see engagement. I can see a lot of people saying engagement and interactivity, right? And some said most of it. Okay, so there we go. Engagement and interactivity seems to be the most challenging. Ms. Abiola, so there you go. We have a clear, many teachers around the world will share that with you, right? Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Abiola, would you like to take this slide? I can't hear you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
sorry.
I'd love for you to share the slide.
You mean to walk through it or to share it?
To walk through the student-centered approaches. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the different type of, well, before I even go into this, I was even thinking about my own experience as a parent with children experiencing online learning. And sometimes online learning or hybrid learning is not always planned, right? So for instance, if there's a case of COVID in the school and the school deems it fit to shut down physically for part of the students or for all of the students, you know, I think it's important for the schools and the teachers to have planned some of this ahead of time. So I know that in some regions around the world, they have substitute teacher binders in the event that like a teacher is sick, right? So those binders are already developed and done beforehand. Could it be that we can have like an emergency binder that students even have? Because we know not everyone is going to have access to technology. Not everyone is going to be able to join at the same time. Sometimes the things don't load when they're supposed to, and the learning is continuing. So could it be, we know that not all our students have access to printers that they can use instantaneously. But if it's like a quote unquote emergency day, quote unquote, right, that students have some materials that they can refer to ahead of time, like a binder. So this requires the school and the teachers to plan and to have these things done, right? Because we know that if you have a plan for in-person learning, it's going to differ from online learning. Okay, it's going to differ. So in the event that an emergency happens or something you're sort of thrown in, you know, I think it's useful to have that type of binder ahead of time, because in a regular classroom, you would have to think through the resources that all of your students have, not some, all. Some parents are going to work. Some parents have someone that's educated with the children. Some children are on their own, whether we like it or not. So it's best for us to be able to plan for that. And that's just what came to my head when we were talking about that, given my own personal experience. Okay, so supportive tools for hybrid learning. I'm just going to read through this and then we'll go over it. Hybrid learning fluidly combines the best of in-school and online learning with digital engagement. Fluidly, that means it flows easily, beautifully, no rocks, no rocks in between. It fluidly flows, okay? And that's in the best case scenarios, and we can get there. It may feel like it's a rocky terrain, but we'll get to the place where it's fluid. It is a way to enhance and accelerate learning by providing student-centered approaches to foster global competencies and meet diverse learners' needs. Now, I'm very much aware that getting to student-centered approaches is not going to be overnight. A lot of the time, as a teacher, as a school leader, you need to have great manual processes in place before you can then move on to the student-centered approach. And we understand and we recognize that it's a continuum, it's a sort of continuum, right? So this is not to say that we expect you, go out student-centered, but that is the goal. So that is the goal. There's a way in which you are working. Everything that you're doing is working toward that within a time frame to get to student-centered approach, okay? To create such a learning environment, educational institutions must create physical and virtual learning spaces that are conducive to dynamic interactions with students who are both in person and remote, okay? Remember when we talked about the 4 modes, sometimes it's not even about the students being accessible to you virtually live. Sometimes it's about the child having the learning continuing outside of your own control as a teacher. How will you drive that and how will you embed that into your planning? To achieve this, teachers must plan with learning tools that will best support the different modes of learning taking place and consider what is best for in-school and online learning. Ms. Asha, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I think you explained this so beautifully, but let's probably, it would be great if you can show them some case studies and some examples as well, just to support what you have brought in. So let's look at some tools, right? Now, you might find us, rather me, partial to Microsoft and Google, but I'm not working for Microsoft or Google by any chance. The reason is probably they had that, would you say, bandwidth or the support to be able to adapt quickly and creatively as they were getting feedback during the pandemic. Earlier, because as I said, I used to roll out technologies, and believe me, Teams was just beginning it was a baby when just before the pandemic, and there were a lot of holes in it. But they quickly, they had the manpower to quickly actually start catering. They will start listening to what teachers and the struggles of the teachers, and they started adapting, which is why they are probably in the forefront of the whole transformation. So I would like to know here, so what tools does Microsoft offer to support hybrid learning? Let's look at it. And there are a lot more tools on the market, but let's take a quick look at it. Teams, OneNote, Forms, Insights, Immersive Readers, and Flipgrid. Okay, if Ms. Fauzia can get the poll up, just want you to know which of the tools have you tried? Check all that applied. Ms. Fauzia, not this poll, the poll which, poll 4. Would you have the poll 4? So which are the tools here have you tried? Check all that applies.
As we're trying to get the second poll posted, if you can just indicate it in the chat list, the ones that you have used, right, Ms. Asha?
Yes.
The ones that you have experience using.
Yeah, from Microsoft. Okay, so somebody said Forms, Teams. Okay, great.
Miss Asha.
Yes.
Miss Asha.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Hi. Teams. Okay, good. All right. Teams, OneNote. Wow. Fantastic.
Mrs. Oshobo, can you mute yourself
Okay,
until?
please involve up.
I can mute myself, sure.
Second. Okay.
Oh, we can't really hear.
Okay, we're getting some responses. So I can see that somebody out here has been using Flipgrid, forms, teams, fantastic. Keep them coming in.
That's a little different from everyone else with the Flipgrid.
Yeah, Flipgrid. So yeah, so looks like Teams is quite popular. Forms is quite popular. I don't see anybody talking about immersive reader. I mean, that's teachers go crazy. I had a teacher who every time she met me, she would launch into this whole immersive reader moment. What it did to her students. She was so passionate. She was one of the in a school here, and she she saw that making a huge difference, and she wanted to share it with everybody. So
another thing that I would also, that I'm curious to know about these resources is the type of technological know-how that are needed for each of them, number one. And then number two, maybe cost implication or membership, if it's required for each person. For instance, for the immersive reader, does that mean I've never used the immersive reader, but is it just teacher facing? Is it also student facing? Because then if it's student facing, then that would require each student to have a device.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so that's also,
some are teacher facing, which the students can actually benefit from. But yeah, the students having devices would be the, in some cases, yes.
And then internet and electricity.
Yeah.
Also.
Yes.
Okay, but we can definitely dig in. Many people are accustomed to Teams.
Yes.
And I know, yeah, as a state, I know Lagos State is using Teams officially. So it could also be because of that.
Right. Fantastic. Okay. So let's move to the next one. Let's look at a video, right? So this is one of the videos. So this is Microsoft Teams. I can see a lot of you using it. It'll be nice. You can connect to this, right? So the question here for you to respond as the video is going on is, what digital, so do you use this in what kind of setting? So we're getting a little deeper here. In what kind of setting do you use this? So let's watch the video and let me know. I hope you can hear the volume. If not, let me know. Can you hear the sound? Hello, can you hear the sound of the video? DG ma'am, were you able to hear the sound? Okay, so there's no sound. I will stop share and share again. I'm sorry. It's not happening.
Let's go to Teams, open up those computers.
We talk about the 4Cs a lot. So it's communication, collaboration, critical thinking skills, and creativity.
Let's go to Teams, open up those computers.
We talk about the 4Cs a lot. So it's communication, collaboration, critical thinking skills, and creativity. Teams really does all of them. It's highly collaborative because I have conversations more in real time, more informal, and more consistent. I have the ability to bring in apps that I would use, like OneNote. Then whenever you add video into the mix, I have real-time face-to-face happening. All those pieces together create an environment that you just don't see in anything today.
I don't know why. Sorry.
Let's go to Teams, open up those computers.
That's okay.
Talk about the 4Cs a lot. So it's communication, collaboration, critical thinking skills, and creativity. Teams really does all of them. It's highly collaborative because I have conversations more in real time, more informal, and more consistent. I have the ability to bring in apps that I would use, like OneNote. Then whenever you add video into the mix, I have real-time face-to-face happening. All those pieces together create an environment that you just don't see in anything today.
Teams is basically a communication platform. There's a different channel for every topic that we go throughout the semester, and that's really the communication hub.
I don't have to think as hard about how I'm going to find the answers and panic about missing a lecture because I know that I can always find the content.
Within Teams, there's instant feedback back to that student and collaboration between students within an environment that's safe and effective for classroom learning. That learning process extends well beyond the confines of a school. Learning can happen just about anywhere.
I would suggest educators really jump on board with technology because their students are ready. They're ready to take off.
You can have things organized with teams. You can have folders with different subjects in it.
It's just a better way of communicating because if you're not going to see somebody, you can still communicate with them even though they're not there.
Teachers get a digital hub for classrooms and professional learning all in one area. There's a lot of power that can come out of that.
Being a teacher, you never have all the answers, so it is nice to be able to collaborate with other team members, whether it be down the hallway, in another part of the building, or in another state.
When we teach our teachers how to engage their voice, we want that to be applied in the classroom as well. When the students' experiences are driving the core of why we do what we do, then the meaning is always there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with me as I was trying to, put it on the. All right. Let's have your answers here as to, so in the chat. Now, how would you, how would you use this? Some of you were using Teams. In what context we're using it? In what kind of setting we're using it? It's not blowing up, actually. No, why? Let me try again. Is this better?
Okay, this is the same video, right?
Yeah.
Or a different one?
Yeah, we're moving to the next. But do I have any responses on chat?
Let me double check.
Okay, so
yeah.
Right. Live whole class. Okay.
Another thing I wanted to sort of touch on as I'm watching the Microsoft Teams, sometimes I notice in using these different technological platforms, because it is unfamiliar to the owner, like the teacher or the school administrator, because we don't know what it fully can do, right? Sometimes we don't embrace it. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes we don't embrace it. So for instance, on Microsoft tools, I've had a situation where teachers have banned students from using the chat box for fear of distraction. And what I would say to that is throwing it out is not the answer. You have to think through remember, student-centered learning is the goal. So, and it's not going to happen overnight. So what type of rituals, what type of classroom management, what type of processes need to be in place? And can you release that freedom gradually, as opposed to saying, no, nobody can use the chat box? Because I even had an experience with my daughter. She was lost in a class, and I said, why don't you just ask one of your friends, what time and she said, no, the teacher has, said we can't be on it. So this is a communication platform, and you cut off the communication component. What is the purpose? So when we're dealing with these tools, we need to think differently. And I know it's painful, and I know it's like you're letting go of your control. You don't want to let it go as a teacher, as a school leader, as an evaluator, right? We know our job. There's certain things we know, but we need to be able to be willing to learn things differently with a different set of lens, so that we can apply best practices to even new terrains.
I'm really glad you touched upon it, because so when I was working with these different schools, one of the programs the school says, yeah, let's open the chat function. And the other schools are so afraid, right? So what happened was that, when the teachers started collaborating between schools, and they found that these schools they shared some of the success stories, they said, okay, maybe we will open it out here and there. I mean, when they started opening out, there is a learning curve. Children do get excited.
They do.
Right? And once I got a call in the very late in the night, because I got a call and she sounded angry. I mean, I thought she was angry, because she said, Asha, we put the wrong setting. Students are able to collaborate. So this was early. I'm talking many years back. So I said, I'm so sorry. I thought that's what I didn't get you, because I was helping them with their back end and the whole thing. She said, no, I wanted to say thank you, because it was so beautiful. She said, we were afraid in the beginning, but when the children was able to ask questions on the LMS, she said the whole dynamics changed. And they never ever went back to switch it off. So I'm just sharing that because
there is light at the end of the tunnel. That's just what I want to say. There is a light. We'll get there.
So let's look at another video.
Teams really does all of them. It's highly.
Okay, there's another video, and this is Flipgrid. There's one person who brought up Flipgrid. Let's look at this teacher's experience, just to know what Flipgrid is. It was a sensational thing. I remember many teachers who tried it. It was all free, by the way, and teachers, they loved it. So let's just give you an insight into Flipgrid, and I hope you can hear if not, just put it on chat that you can't hear.
In case you're unfamiliar, Flipgrid is
I can hear.
Oh, you can hear? Fantastic. Okay.
Amazing online tool for teachers, and it's free, and it allows you to share assignments with your students, and then it allows your students to respond or submit their assignment using video. It's a lot of fun. And if you are a teacher that's using Google Classroom, one great thing about Flipgrid is that it is integrated with Google Classroom already, so it makes it even easier for you to share your assignments. Now in this first video, I'm going to show you how to set up your grid, which is basically the same thing as setting up your class in Flipgrid. So let's go ahead and jump on my computer, and I'm going to show you how it's done. Alright guys, so I am in Flipgrid right now, and you can see that I don't have any grids created, so I'm going to go ahead and create my first one. And like I said before, creating a grid is kind of like just setting up your class in the program. So click on Add New Grid, and for the name of it, I recommend just naming whatever your class is. So let's say Mrs. Vestal's history class. And then it's going to give you 3 options to pick from. you can add students using their school email, and it must be through either Microsoft or Google. I recommend doing it this way just because it's going to be the most secure option. Your second option has you add students using their student IDs, and the third option is the easiest option, and you can share your grid with really anyone this way. Like I said, I recommend doing the school email. It's going to be the most secure. For the sake of this tutorial, because I'm not putting any students in right now, I'm going to go the public route. Okay, so the next option is it's going to ask you, do you want to add a password? And what this means is when students,
I'm sorry, this is more like a tutorial, but I'll try to
log into the grid, do they need to use a password?
This is more like a tutorial. I think I'll
In case
stop
you're
there.
unfamiliar,
I'd like you to explore more on Frigid. The video which we shared with you, they pulled it off the net. So, but I'm just kind of introducing, this is more where the students can share work through a video, and you can actually comment on it. And it's supposed to be really effective and really fun. So I don't want to waste your time more on this, but there's plenty of material on the net for you to go through. So let's move on in the we have a time constraint. Like you to look at the next one. It's quite nice. This is forms. So let's look at, actually everybody seems to be using forms. Let's look at a good optimal use of forms.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I teach 4th grade humanities. Did you know that you can quickly and easily create quizzes and other formative assessments in Microsoft Teams? Go to office.com and sign into your Office 365 education account. Click Microsoft Teams. Once you're in your class, select Assignments, click Create, and choose New Quiz. You can either select New Form to create a new quiz, or choose an existing one. I'm going to choose an existing quiz. Now your quiz is ready to go. Add instructions and set the due date. Click Assign to assign this quiz to multiple classes or to individual students. Your students get notified about the quiz. Once they hit View Assignment, they can take it right then and there. To start grading, go to the assignment and click Review. With auto grading, Forms has marked the correct answers. For free response questions, provide points earned. You can even enter feedback on a given question. All done? Click on the 3 dots and select Post Scores. The grades will automatically sync to Teams assignments, and your students will be notified. And that's it. Try it out today.
Okay, so that's about forms, and I would like to hear about forms, especially. DG ma'am, would you like to ask any questions about forms? But I really would love to know how you have used forms and how creatively have you used forms.
Okay, are you asking the participants?
Yes, yes.
Okay, how they've been using forms?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, someone said test, assignment. Yes, I think at the teacher level, people, especially if the school is using Microsoft Teams, I think it is the case that schools that use it for tests or assignment for their students. But remember, we have different stakeholders here. We have evaluators. So it will be interesting to think through how evaluators can use forms and how they can use all of these different hybrid tools for the schools, right? For schools. As we are saying it's a best practice, then that means we also need to be open to using this, modeling what we expect school leaders and teachers to be able to do. And it is a learning curve for us all. It does often come with a cost implication with data and then a technical expertise. But I know it's something that, like, for instance, the EQA team has really been working on. So for instance, we use Google Forms quite often. Okay. We use it to get polls. We use it, for everything. We use it now. The traditional forms of technology, like Excel have always sort of been used, but just expanding the use. It would be interesting to see how other participants use the forms.
So we have here,
Microsoft.
someone says they use it for tests and assignments. And what I heard from a lot of teachers, especially during the last 1 year or so, forms has actually, because of the whole online context, has become more, would you say, teacher friendly in terms of like the math teacher was able to use it beautifully. There's so many interesting options which was never there earlier, has come up now. And there was one group of schools were telling they use forms for just collecting student feedback, right? And it was so easy to use, and they would continuously had that culture of collecting student feedback in periodically. So forms is, I can see that a lot of you are comfortable with forms, and it's also good for you to just go out there, look at a lot of teachers were sharing creative uses of forms as well, apart from the more traditional uses of forms, and see how it integrates into your platform so that it's seamless. The word very important now is not to use them as different places, but integrate it all so that the experience for the student becomes more and more seamless. Yeah. Yes. So let's look at the next, let's move on to the next part of it. Here we go. Right. I'd like to take you through 3 slides here. And I'm going to just break down, a little more the way we're looking at this whole, the whole digital tools and the adoption, right? So given all your responses, given all the teachers' experiences, we just tried to collate. There are lots we would have missed out. So I'd like you to, on the chat, say, here, this is what I do, and this is what I use. So we're purposely using tools which are the popular ones. So you might have, in your context, been using something which has really worked for you. Please immediately put it down for the sake of other teachers. I'm going to start with this. Okay, so everybody keep an eye out on the chat as well, because you might have somebody using another tool, but which does the same thing. Classroom interaction. So for typically day-to-day discussions, conversations, dialogues, and questions. So that comes under the discussion, talk and share ideas. So we're now using specific language here. Learning mode is discussion. The digital tools typically, which are supported teachers worldwide, has been Microsoft Teams has been the the favorite, right, for conversation posts. So you can put down on the chat if there was something else which you had used to do the same thing, right? So so that would be the online interaction. More in detail would be students and teachers can interact with one another through the posts, and teachers can ask questions for students to contribute in throughout the week. So not just for that session. Students can ask questions about the content and assignment. So that's the the digital tool for this particular learning mode. The second one, teacher demonstration, teacher exposition. Now that's very different. Now that's explicit, right? That's learn from an expert. There's not much interaction there. The most favorite has been Microsoft Streams. I don't know if you've, but it's worth exploring, and or YouTube videos as well. Or is there anything else which you have used for that, right? Any other tool you have used? So if you could start thinking in these terms, you might explore more and more tools in your context, which makes sense for you. Now let's look at another form, distributing personalized resources to guide learning. So that's now, it's called guided learn with an expert, right? So the tools for that has been, so you're talking about different categories now of tools, right? Microsoft Teams, the Files tab has been very, very useful, right? And Google Classroom has been very useful. And a lot of you said OneNote, yes. So that's great for distributing personalized resources, personalized, I'm talking about, to guide learning, right? So you don't want to take a tool such as OneNote and just make it into a one size, fits all, right? You it's a waste of such a tool, right? That's your opportunity for personalized. So if you haven't done it before, explore that angle. Students provided with a playlist. So each child will have a different playlist, right? Or folder of resources for independent and guided learning, right? So let's look at the next slide, a continuation of this. Student collaboration and small group work. So that's collaboration, learn with others. And the tools which has been really supportive are the channels within the teams. Breakout rooms has been amazing, and Zoom breakout rooms. And is there anything else which you have used to foster collaboration where students learn with each other? The other is student independent learning, learn by myself. And OneNote again has been fantastic for that. Google Docs has been fantastic for that. Is there anything else? Do keep it coming on chat if there's something else, and just use the learning mode to tag it with it. Students carry out inquiry and investigation either in groups or independently. So that's your experiential learning. Make, explore, and investigate. Again, Microsoft Teams and Zoom breakout, yes, but have you explored Mural? If you haven't, you have to. It's amazing. It's really a bunch of post-its. So you can give the framework, and there are a bunch of post-its. It's so exciting to collaborate this way, especially if you are in an online context. So that's something, it really, really works. All the ideas come in and it's so visible. That whole thinking process, ideation process is so visible. So do explore. These are free for schools. Do explore something like Mural, or if you have something better, some schools have used Padlet and things like that. So that's also great, right? Students present, but I've also seen, by the way, Padlet and things like that used quite poorly and used like, in your, where like a lecture. No, that doesn't help, right? So certain tools you can leverage them for the right purpose. Students present their findings and demonstrate learning. So when you're having demonstration, of course, students have used Sway, PowerPoint, MS Teams, and they use Flipgrid. That's the Flipgrid. I didn't show you the whole tutorial because it was just going on and on, but it's something you can explore. It's just fabulous, and it's also freely available for students and teachers. So I'm sure if they have access to the phone and things like that, they can work that. It's so engaging. Try it out and see how you feel about it. So that's for the student. So that's more from the student perspective, more student-centered. That's demonstration. The last, but not the least, is distribute and collecting assignments, typical feedback and reflection, your Google assignments and the Microsoft Teams assignment, providing feedback to students. I actually explored something called Class Kick. Okay, so that's more catered towards feedback and reflection. So try that out. And for formative assessments, exit tickets, quizzes, and surveys and polls. So you have Kahoot, which has been a major favorite among educators. So I'll stop there. These slides will be with you. It'll be great in your own school context. If you could have workshops with your teachers and evaluate. I mean, are we using the tools? Are we leveraging it for personalized learning? Are we taking these fabulous tools and just going on with the same old way of doing things like a lecture mode? So look at the different modes. Are we actually trying out the different modes and making sure the tools we use complement those modes? That's the purpose of this. It's not really to tell you these are the tools, but really purpose of just getting you to think in that direction here. Right, let's look at 2 case studies, which I hope you have gone through before. If not, happy to run. Ma'am, would you like us to run the link? Would that help?
Yes, before you even move forward, I wanted everyone to just remember that in preparation for this workshop, we tried to do a flipped classroom, where you would have the content ahead of time and you would look through them. In an ideal situation, there would be like guiding questions for you to sort of think through, sort of like what Ms. Asha did when it came to the warm up, right? Maybe challenges, maybe whatever so that people come, or students come, or teachers come to the professional development session with some content to work on as it relates to their own context. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about before we move on. Another thing I wanted to contribute is, in as much as we're talking through the different content, we know that not everyone has the same access point when it comes to resources, when it comes to, you know, what you're able to do in terms of technological know-how. We're very much aware, but that doesn't mean that we can't start from where we are. By no means am I saying that if your students don't have access to technology, that it's impossible. No. Neither am I saying that you need all the technology in the world and you need to go on every single website before you have an impactful hybrid or, you know, remote learning session. It really boils down to what is best for your environment, for your students, you know, and for the learning environment that you're trying. But what is non-negotiable is the direction that we're going. What is non-negotiable is to stay in the same place. We must expand our mindset. We must be willing to learn things that are new, even if we don't continuously have access to technology. The time that we do have access to technology, could it be that you're even upskilling yourself for when you are in preparation for when you do have a lot of access, or your students have access, right? So what are you able to do with minimal access to technology, like WhatsApp? What are you able to do with a lot of access, like having an LMS? What are you able to do with no access to technology, right? Our smartphones were able to do so much. I just wanted to put that caveat in there. That's number two. The third and final thing I want to say before we move on, I know we're pressed for time, is that a lot of these the tools that we've been focusing on are actual technological tools, but there are some content-based tools that have embedded the technological tools within them, right? So for instance, Khan Academy, I know in Khan Academy, you can have like courses, you can classes for the different classes you have, you can split your students up, you can do assessments, the content is already there, right? And those systems have those technologies embedded inside there. So it's also trying to figure out, you know, a la carte, which one will work best for your environment. And I'm an English teacher, so I'm biased when it comes to, you know, English tools. So I've also listed Common Lit and News ELA and No Red Ink. Those are three solid resources for literature, English, general studies teachers. Miss Asha is just beaming with pride here. Okay, go ahead, Miss Asha.
I was wondering, is there anyone here who has already seen this video and would like to, is it possible for them to unmute and share? I think technically we can unmute, right?
Yes, I believe we can. I believe Miss Fauzi is also here to support us with that. Also, okay. If you have watched.
Yeah, if you've watched, any one of you would love to hear your voice, because I'm really sick of hearing my own voice today. So I'd love to hear your voice. If you've seen the video, that what do you think about this video and what outcomes did the school want to see? By the way, that video was part of the team I was part of. So it's very personal to me as well. So what outcome did the school want to see? What digital tools were there? You can answer in any order. What digital tools were used to support the school in reaching the outcomes? And how feasible is it to introduce these tools in your classroom, and how desirable is it? So is there anyone who can talk about that particular video? I have a raised hand. Okay. Yes, Ms. Adikunle? Go ahead.
Can we please unmute him? Thank you. Miss Fauzia, can we please unmute the person that raised their hand? Miss Asha, do you want to see if you can unmute the person?
Sure. And these, yeah, I'll try.
Adekunle Majakudumi, please unmute yourself.
Ask to unmute. Yeah.
Indicate in the chat if you're having problem unmuting yourself.
I don't think I have permission to unmute the person.
Okay. I've allowed, I believe I've given permission to speak. I'm not sure if Fauzia's here, but I've given permission.
Hello, Miss Asha.
Yeah.
Please, I made you host. Please, you can unmute the person.
I'm trying to, but it's not letting me. It just says remove permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Majakodumi, please unmute yourself. You've been given the permission to talk.
Maybe he has changed his mind.
Yeah, maybe. So that's fine.
But DG is taking notes.
All right. So okay, I'm just. Would you like me to play the video, or shall I move on to the? Would it help, Mrs. Abiola?
How many minutes? I think that video is not that long, right? I think
yeah, it's a short video, but
yeah, if you can play it, it would be helpful.
Okay, let me.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can. As a stop share, let's see if I can share my screen. I think it was the, yeah, I think it was this. Let me know if you can hear.
GEMS Education.
We can hear.
Perfect, wonderful.
Are the largest private education provider in the world. GEMS also want to be the most innovative education provider. And so we've put a huge amount of focus into our digital transformation, how that works at our corporate level, but how that also works at our school level too. GEMS has had an outstanding relationship with Microsoft for the last 8 years, but 6 years ago we entered into an education transformation plan with Microsoft. We're now using Teams across all of our company, not just within our schools, but within our corporate functions as well. And of course, one of the benefits of us using Teams is it's helping us as a company to really achieve our vision to become a paperless system. Probably 40 to 45% of what used to be email traffic is now being driven through our use of Teams.
What this is doing is, it's freeing up time for my teachers on a regular basis. The time that's saved by the teachers, they're using it for personal learning and peer learning with each other.
All children have been given an access and an account with Microsoft Teams. Their teachers are then able to log in, upload materials that will help them with their home learning. We've had a huge impact in increasing the engagement in Microsoft Teams.
The impact of Teams on the classroom and students' learning means that they can access all the information for lessons in one place, whether that's a PowerPoint, a video file, or a Word document that you want to share with students. They can easily find all the resources that they need. Students get a lot more choice over when they learn and the pace of their learning. Within Teams, another great feature is the chat function. You can actually make video calls. We use this to call people in different locations or at other schools, and it really helps us to have fulfilling and worthwhile conversations with people in different locations.
It does make learning more interesting because it's a new technology, so you're more motivated to study
subject or just go through the content?
Teams is a very good platform for not only teachers and students, it's also between the teacher groups also and with our management.
GEMS Education, every year we are running Global Innovation Challenge where we have to coordinate and collaborate with the students and teachers from GEMS schools. Our planning time and our meeting time has reduced because nearly gone down to 80%. Now we don't have to travel to each other's school and we all can actually virtually collaborate with each other, which has really helped us to manage our time more effectively.
And of course, one of the main concerns that lots of people have is actually about security. Teams provides that complete safe environment for all of our students and our teachers and our parents then to collaborate within the one environment. And therefore we've developed frameworks with Microsoft to actually help support both our teachers and our leaders to make sure we're delivering high quality digital education for the 21st century.
Okay, so let us leave the fact that it was just teams and talking about a particular specific tool, but there were some outcomes that they went in with the vision. So I want you to focus more on that. Can you think of what really highlighted in your mind? What was that they went in with? What was the outcome they wanted to achieve? Could you remember one of them? Drop it on chat. What was that they wanted to achieve? Okay, fine, they used a specific tool, but what was that and did they achieve that? I can pull up one for you just to get started, which was paperless. They wanted to reduce the amount of printing, paperless. So like that, can you think of any other which struck you while you're watching this video? Okay, the whole thing is about using tech support. Yeah, another challenge is parent ability to go. Okay. Could you put in the chat what you think? What was it they clearly wanted to, what was the benefit they wanted for the teachers, and could you highlight that? So it's really important, while you were typing away, it's really important that as a group, especially from the school context, it's not about the tools per se, it's about what is it you want to achieve, what is the outcome you want to see, right? So a lot of it came out there in that video. So when you do that, then you look around and see which are the right tools for that purpose. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. You brought up a very one of the outcomes they wanted: collaboration among stakeholders. You wouldn't believe that was one thing that is in this context. You've mentioned that teachers were not even collaborating within themselves. So when they realized that was a missing piece, then you get the right tool and then you make it happen, and you train them on that. So that really the idea sharing between teachers became, and each of them are sharing resources and things like that. So yes, that was definitely an outcome which they managed to achieve. Thank you so much for putting that out there. Okay, I think we're short of time, but do I have time for the second case study?
We don't have, I think, but I think that second case study is actually really important.
Sure.
So I would say that we just go ahead with it.
Okay, let's see if I'll pull up the, let me see if this is the one. I think this is the one. Can you see my screen on promoting? Yeah, can you see this?
Yeah.
Promoting, perfect. So this will be the last case study, and after that, I'll hand it over to DG ma'am to close, say the closing word. Let's watch this carefully, because this is really actually it's the most important piece of the whole thing, which is student well-being.
As everybody in the globe, we have been homeschooling, distance learning, and it has been quite a ride. Of course, we are interested in how the students are doing at home. So we have to look at different kind of tools. And one good tool what we have found out is the school day well-being application. And with that, we have had the feedback. Starting with school day application was very easy. In the first 2.5 months, we were collecting 200,000 answers. It has been very interesting to see the data from teaching, from well-being. The measurements are saying that we are feeling well. Support of teaching was the major thing that we could change because of the data. Every teacher understands that the students, they need support all the time, so we can react if they are feeling not well and switch our methods to talk with them during this crisis.
We have integrated School Day to Microsoft Teams to gain the synergies and create workflow for students to improve retention and feedback loop. Teachers will have access to analytics and tips for light touch interventions to improve well-being in teams. Teams also provides tools like chat and assignments and a whole lot of other Graph API integration possibilities to extend School Day experience.
The whole school system here in Kuopio City is using Microsoft Teams and other products. So we were so happy about that School Day was integrated already for Teams. We are very eager to continue the cooperation. It's very important that the schools and the companies are talking all the time together, because together we can develop new products and the products which can affect the young one's life.
Microsoft have been a tremendous partner since day one, been helping us with everything and allocating resources and support all the way. And now with Teams integration, I'm really looking forward to see where we can go to help schools around the world.
I think it's better to learn when you feel happy than when you feel grumpy. It's just like, why am I here? But when you feel good and you learn, it's actually really fun to learn new stuff.
Okay, so I'll pull up my slide again, and there we go. Okay, so what outcomes do you think in this case study did they want to see? Is there anyone who can share that on chat? What was the tool and what outcomes did the school want to see?
I know a lot of people from the chat especially have been talking about the challenges to technology, right? But it's just something we just have to face head on, regardless of where we are in that spectrum. Okay, so tech support and teaching, schools facing challenges in areas of materials, parents not having buy-in, cost of good internet, computers. Yes, we can all agree, even within our own office, we have those challenges, you know, but that doesn't mean that we're still not going to start from where we are. So we know that we may not be where some of these other countries are, and we may not be, even within Nigeria, there's a discrepancy between schools, right? But we can still make an impact where we are. And it really has to do with a willingness to shift our mindset and to problem solve, right? How are we going to prioritize what needs to get done? And how are we going to use the limited resources we have to just inch a step further? We may not make it to the finish line, but how are we going to inch a step further? I absolutely love this app, as simple as it seems. Smiley face, not so smiley face, just to see where everyone is. Right. If we had that type of data as to see like everyone in the school is sad today, how might that change the way we plan? How might that change our approach for that particular week on the school, at the school level, at the teacher level,
Yeah.
Okay, how might that change things? Even as evaluators, if we're working with schools and they're all telling us they're scared of our visit, right? How might that change our approach? It is important for us to know at every stage how our stakeholders are feeling, right? And oftentimes we don't get that feedback instantly, and we don't get that feedback. I mean, with children, sometimes children don't even know what's wrong with them too. Even adults don't know what's wrong sometimes, you know? So I really like the approach of using expressions: frustrated, happy, sad, lonely. Something similar to this, but it's not as illustrative. It's called a word. I think it's called a word chart, a word circle. I used to use it a lot in creative writing.
Right.
And, you know, happy or sad, for instance, is broken up into, you know, lonely or incompetent or insecure. You know, sometimes we don't have the language to talk about how we feel, you know. So I don't want us, in essence, to just turn everything off or lose hope because these things don't look like it's possible in our environment. Let's take what we can, right, from where we are, and let's create something new. Who knows, maybe we would be the next video that's being shown for another professional development session, right? You know, so I don't want, because oftentimes I understand that is reality, but at the same time, we don't want the reality to stifle us, and we don't want it to get in the way of us actually, you know, learning something and using tools that may actually be available to us, right? And we've seen that in our office with the HP IDA fellows. They've been able to impact so much change in their classroom, those teachers with limited resources, because of their focus on design thinking and being able to proffer in very creative solutions to their problems. And this in its entirety is no different. Okay, so, and I know we've taken up more of your time, which means we've even used more of the data you've complained about. So forgive us. Thank you. Ms. Asha, go ahead.
I think that's all. We've come to the end. And just to add one more thing is that, especially the well-being which you touched on, is it's to one thing which digital tools also allow is anonymous sharing of how they feel and how they think. And that's been because a lot of children, they don't want to put a name to it. They just want to, you know, express themselves. So that it's so important that they are able to contribute sometimes even anonymously and to be recognized. So, you know, and you get a sense of how things are, you know, class-wise. So that's, I think we've touched upon, and really like you to go take.
Uh-oh, Mr. Caleb Michael. Please mute yourself.
We'll share all these resources with you. And if you can, in your school context, take the worksheets which we had shown, you know, the different, you know, the categories of and what works best in your context continuously, because technology constantly changes. So that can be a continuing activity. You know, you could work at the school level with your teachers, and get your students to actually recommend something. They'll come up with some amazing tools as well. So thank you from my end. And I would love to do this. I hope we have the time, is for you to, in the chat, capture this whole session as though you are writing a headline, right? As a headline. So let's say you are a journalist and you've attended a session, and how would you write an article? What will the headline be? What struck you most? What is that key takeaway? What word caught your attention? So do, as we are exiting, do keep that chat alive with your headlines. And thank you so much. As I said, it's such a privilege to be in the same platform as you, Ms. Aviola, And
thank you so much, Ms. Asha. This has been a very eye-opening experience. It's been very dense because there's so many tools, and sometimes I know it's confusing and intimidating to figure out where you want to start, but we won't start until we start, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful after today's session, you know, that even though there's so many tools being thrown at us, that after having gone through them, after seeing some of them in use in different contexts, after thinking through where we want our students to be, where we want our teachers to be, where we want our schools to be as evaluators, right? Just as we are thinking through that we want teachers to focus on learner-centered experiences, we also, as evaluators, want schools to be in charge and to take ownership over their own learning and their own professional development. So how can we sort of support you along that route? Okay. Of course, I also like this exit ticket having a headline. This is an example of what teachers can do in the classroom. It's also an example of what school leaders can do with their teachers as they give out professional development. And of course, what evaluators can do to wrap up or to end, you know, maybe a whole school evaluation session or a follow-up, you know, just to get quick feedback as to how we've sort of done, right? Because at the end of the day, you're able to better plan when you have feedback. Okay, I really want to thank you, Ms. Asha, for your contributions. It's been a wonderful session. It's interesting to see how, you know, each facilitator has their own style, you know, and all are effective. They're just so different, you know. So thank you thank you so much for that. I also want to remind everyone that this session is going to be available on the OEQA Lagos handle at YouTube. The entire video, and also that the materials will be available downloadable. Okay, you don't have to pay for that. Okay, we've created all of these materials for you to use, for you to tailor to your own, the needs of your school, the needs of your teachers. Okay, and that will be available at lagoslearnstogether.com. It seems like some people have actually put in some interesting, digital teaching and learning simplified. OEQA educates schools on easy transition to hybrid schooling. Wow, should we need to bring this person. PRO, please take notes. Effects of technology on lesson delivery. Okay. Wow, hybrid learning, a dynamic and all-inclusive way to get ahead for schools. Okay.
Fabulous.
I like this exit ticket, to be honest. I like this particular one. It's quite interesting. Okay, and we've gone over time. And I apologize for that. We do respect your time and we appreciate the fact that you're still here after having gone almost 2 hours into the session. So thank you. So Ms. Asha, I think we're done for the day. Yes. I want to, last but not the least, thank the entire OEQA team, the tech team, the anti-room team, everyone, the PRO, everyone that has been crucial into planning this, getting this together, and make sure that we make it from beginning to end. I appreciate you all. God bless you all. And thank you, of course. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.